Hi everyone. For those who haven't seen my ugly mug before, my name's Stephen J. Humphrey, independent parliamentary candidate, lawful rebel, Englishman, and a free man. That's the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. We are free. We're born with inalienable rights, which means you can't tax those rights. So if my right is to be a human being, with all the rights and privileges, duties and obligations and liabilities of being a human being as declared in English law, European law and now United Nations law since 1947 at least. What if those declarations of human rights were fraudulent? Maybe they made those declarations in good faith and then decided to ignore them. They being the global elites, the Zionist, corporate, fascist pigs, who in my evidence, in my witness testimony, owe allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II of England. Not to the UN, not to the EU, not to NATO, not to their constituencies, but to the Queen. And then the Queen, according to her coronation oath, must comply with the laws and customs of her people. So she's subject to those laws and customs just as much as we are. And that leads into the fundamental core principle of English law, that we are all created equal. The moment the sperm and the egg join together, that becomes a human being. You can't separate that human being from the mother or the father, because you are the product of that union, that contract between mother and father. You know, whether they marry in common law, just by living together and mutually agreeing between themselves to be husband and wife, or husband and husband, or wife, or husband and transsexual, or husband and donkey, that's the fundamental basis, is that we, the people, swear allegiance to the Crown and the Queen, and then the Crown is supposed to protect and serve those fundamental rights that now include a definition of what it is to be human. And all the evidence that I've seen, certainly in the last 2 years, but suspected before that time, e.g. from the moment I got online in July of 2008, the YouTube videos, I've got over 400 separate accounts of what is the truth on my YouTube playlist at A41Dog on YouTube, that describe in visual detail. I mean, if I tell you something and then what I tell you turns out to be a fib, then you can prosecute me. But the evidence that are in these videos that I've independently documented and compiled and put together on YouTube is pretty conclusive that this government, Parliament, even Parliament itself, is governed by a house of traitors, because the members of that house, the members of Parliament that we allegedly elect into office, have been committing fraud, have wrongfully denied us our rights to English law, to justice. I mean, I've got at least 4 independent cases in my own casebook of where this abuse has led to loss. Led to injury. I mean, that's just in the last couple of years, the last 5 years. And I wasn't even aware at the time of these offences what the truth actually was. I had a suspicion. I've been fighting the job centre for 30 years. I'm trying to prove that mandatory work placements is a form of slavery and is therefore unlawful. But I didn't have the magic words null and void in my vocabulary at the time. Couldn't tell them that the Welfare Reform Act 2007 has clauses and terms and conditions that are unlawful. And you cannot consent to these unlawful acts because they become treason. You become a traitor if you comply with those rules, because you're betraying your own constitution, your own right to be a human being. And I've been wrestling with these core principles for 30 years, since I signed on the dole first in 1982. But because they bribe us with like 40% of our national income, and they placate us for the moment, doesn't alter the fact that they still owe us £1 million over 40 years. What's that? It's 125 grand a year, isn't it? 125,000 every 5 years, and the best that you get out of it, maybe 5,000, maybe whatever they invent as money, then you're entitled to. But you can't be entitled to that benefit if you sign away your fundamental rights. Your definition of slavery is ignored. Your fundamental right to live free from unlawful impositions is ignored. Now, the question I have leading on from this is, if the evidence points to Her Majesty the Queen being the one, the all-seeing eye, the master of all she surveys, and she's still perpetuating slavery despite the various acts of Parliament, various alliances and treaties and terms and conditions of those treaties that say thou shalt not live in slavery, you shall live free. What the fuck is the Queen doing? Is she so hampered by custom and tradition that she can't see the wood for the trees? Well, I really would like to ask Her Majesty the Queen, maybe I should write a petition and ask her specifically, what is your role in the New World Order? What is your role? What is your relationship to Baron de Rothschild? What is your relationship to Nathaniel Rockefeller? Now I may get my names mixed up, but basically the two people apparently owe $600 trillion, I guess, whatever a dollar is worth. Let's just call it pounds. They between them own allegedly £600 trillion UK. Now, what is the Queen's relationship to that money? Is she like the controlling interest? Is she just a patsy? Is she in fact a traitor to the English law and to the people that she represents? Or is she an innocent victim like me and you? These are just some questions I need to ask. If you're a Queen's Counsel or otherwise a lawful rebel and would like to help me get to the bottom of this puzzle, what relationship does Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II have to the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the other global elites? Some say that number the 300. Perhaps you could contact me somehow, and on Facebook, for example, just look for my name, Stephen J. Humphrey, on Facebook, you'll find me, and then send us an email or just phone us. Right, let's get into the end of this vid. Like I said, independent parliamentary candidate Stephen J. Humphrey signing off on this day, the 30th of October 2010. The evidence I've given here is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, as I see it, and all the best. Lord Chief Justice of Boscombe signing off.